Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. The Age of Cards. The 100 Ghosts Night Walk is drawn at the start. Chapter 61. There was a sudden silence around. Everyone was stunned by Yeezy's actions. What time is this, and he still cares about the task? Still thinking about document signatures. If you can't resist the corpse tide, everyone will die here. Until then, what if you get the mission completion certificate? Do you still have time to go back and submit tasks? What is this guy thinking about? Many senior adventurers shook their heads. I don't know where the rookie adventurer came from, and the whole thing is stunned. The members of the Red Light Adventure group also stared blankly at Yeezy, full of puzzlement in their hearts. This old man is also really big-hearted. Aren't you worried about the corpse tide outside? Even if it is a 4 or 5-star card disciple, it is difficult to guarantee that he will survive the corpse tide. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Yeezy turned a blind eye to everyone's eyes, and looked at Zhang Yuinan with a calm expression. No, I'll sign it for you. Zhang Yuinan woke up, opened the suitcase and checked briefly. Seeing that there was no problem, he immediately signed his name on the document that Yeezy handed over. In the next instant, Yeezy received a message prompt as he wished. Complete the first adventure achievement task and get 1000 achievement points. A look of joy flashed in Yeezy's eyes. The reason why he is now asking Zhang Yuinan for a mission completion certificate is naturally to complete the achievement mission. 1000 achievement points is enough to boost his power even higher. In the slightest movement of the mind, 1000 achievement points were immediately invested in the Heaven's Gate deck, which further increased the unlock rate to 36%. Satisfied, he turned off the virtual panel, and Yeezy returned to his original place under the strange gaze of everyone. This junior acting is really unexpected and unpredictable. Xiao Aiyu looked at Yeezy's calm appearance, and there was a faint smile on her pale face. Everyone's attention was quickly drawn to the battle outside. As time flows, the military knights on the fence were gradually unable to support them. Many people began to take out the star power recovery medicine and take it. However, there is a limit to the number of times the medicine can be taken, and once they can no longer be taken, they will immediately lose their combat effectiveness. After 10 minutes, a dark-skinned officer with a strong breath walked over with a few soldiers. It was Zhu Shui, the garrison commander of the camp. Everyone, the scale of the corpse tide is far beyond expectations, and our manpower is about to be unable to support it. According to the Alliance's Temporary War Zone Emergency Act, we are now temporarily recruiting all adventurers to participate in the war as combat power and join us to resist the corpse tide. There was a sudden murmur in the crowd. But few were surprised. As early as when the corpse tide appeared, the adventurers present had expected this development, and there was no resistance in their hearts. After all, he fought to keep himself alive. Otherwise, if the gate of the camp is breached, no one can survive alone. Under the arrangement of Zhu Shui, some of the exhausted sergeants Kadu were replaced with adventurers. Xiao Aiyu went to the observation deck. She hasn't recovered from her injuries, but she doesn't want to stay behind and wait for the result of the battle. Standing on the observation deck is just the right time to observe the battle situation in time. I didn't know about it in the camp before, but when I stood on the fence and saw with my own eyes the endless corpses that seemed to be boundless in the mountains and fields, everyone deeply realized the horror of the corpse tide. Fear has begun to appear in the eyes of many adventurers. Seeing this scene in his eyes, Zhu Shui frowned secretly. As expected, adventurers are far inferior to professional soldiers in terms of discipline and will to fight. Moreover, the strength of these people is uneven, and there are actually rookie adventurers who look less than 20 years old and are obviously students. Zhu Shui's gaze stopped on Yeezy, and he sighed. It's just that there are not many requirements in this situation now, and one more point of available combat power is 1 point. In order to prevent the adventurers from disrupting the formation of the Silver Guards, Zhu Shui deliberately arranged them on the left side of the wall. With countless flashes of light, the dense Kaling instantly appeared on the left side of the battlefield and plunged into the fierce battle. Master, do you want us to take action? Tamamo showed a look of eagerness to try. Irina also looked over. Being not. Yeezy shook his head. Tamamo Zen and Irina are tough, but in this kind of battlefield, the massacre efficiency is not high. To get as many low-level monsters as possible, the best way is to use astral cards. Swish. Yeezy flipped his wrist, and there were already several astrology cards in his palm. Astral card, 100 phosphorus fire. The turbulent star power fluctuations spread instantly. Nearby adventurers immediately noticed a scorching hot breath in the air. Before they could react, they suddenly heard a piercing whistling sound above their heads. Looking up, he couldn't help but froze in place. I saw hundreds of fireballs burning with blue flames falling from the sky, falling into the corpse tide like stars and moons. Boom, boom. A terrifying shock wave and flame wave erupted in an instant, tearing the surrounding living corpses to shreds in an instant. Astral card, Evil Claw. Shadows emerge. At some point in the sky above the battlefield, there was an incomparably huge phantom with sharp claws, exuding a monstrous aura. In full view, the sharp claws suddenly swept across the sky, and swept across the center of the battlefield with a violent and unparalleled power. Every living corpse touched by the phantom of the sharp claws shattered like rotten wood without exception. Looking down from above, in the center of the battlefield, there were several empty strips that formed distinct claw marks. Astral card, Death Ripple. The gray ripples spread through the corpse like a hurricane, and the living corpses fell to the ground like dominoes one after another, and the soul of the soul was instantly wiped out. Astral card, End Spiral. A fist-sized gray halo suddenly appeared. Its center is spiral-shaped, rotating slowly like a vortex. Every time it rotates, an irresistible terrifying suction force is generated, pulling the living corpses around, twisting the body and engulfing it alive. After swallowing thousands of living corpses, the gray spiral slowly dissipated. Wait until the 4-star spells are released. The entire battlefield has long since become pitted. At least 5,000 or 6,000 living corpses died in the astrology bombing just now. Even though the number of the corpse tide was in the thousands, there was a brief gap in the area between the meeting and the camp. On the fence, everyone looked at this scene in a daze, only to feel that their tongues were dry, and they couldn't speak for a long time. Chapter 62. When raising their hands and feet, thousands of living corpses vanished into ashes. This shocking scene has caused many people to take a deep breath. Many members of the Red Luminous Adventure group standing near Yeezy even stared wide-eyed, showing a ghost-like expression. Although they had long known that Yeezy was strong, but they had not seen it with their own eyes, they still had some doubts in their hearts. They didn't understand until this time. Zhongpei and others did not exaggerate Yeezy's strength, and even underestimated it. There are adventurers who will be on the fence. One of them counts as one. Who can kill 5,000 or 6,000 living corpses in the backhand? This is not so strong. Who is it? Damn it, you've missed the mark. Zhu Shui looked at Yeezy in amazement. I didn't expect this young adventurer who looked like a student to have such a powerful power. When did the Red Light Adventure group have so many fierce people? Zhu Shou glanced sideways at Xiao Aiyu on the observation platform. Seeing that Yeezy had been standing with Zhongpei and others, he mistakenly thought that Yeezy was also a member of the Kai Yao Adventure group. Little did she know that Xiao Aiyu also widened her beautiful eyes in amazement at this moment. This apprentice is as powerful as the rumors say. I heard that he killed tens of thousands of Death Knell beetles in the Death Knell Canyon before. I thought it was an exaggerated rumor. Now it seems that it is not a rumor. Xiao Aiyu muttered to herself in a low voice, her eyes full of amazement. Taking advantage of the brief blankness of the corpse tide, everyone seized the opportunity to rest. Many people looked at Yeezy secretly, and soon found out that he was the guy who was still asking for a certificate of mission completion at a critical moment, and couldn't help but sigh. At first I thought it was a stunned young man, but now it seems that people are clearly confident and not worried about the corpse tide. It's ridiculous that he is still ignorant and secretly ridiculed. A boss is a boss. Acting out of the ordinary. Not caring about the gazes around, Yeezy looked at the corpses slowly coming to fill the blank space in the distance, and squeezed the astrology card in his hand with joy. 1-star bombing can kill 5,000 or 6,000 living corpses, and after more than 10 times, the achievement of killing 100,000 people should be able to be achieved. Astrology cards with large-scale attack effects are very rare. Even though Yeezy has a fantasy level deck and 2 legendary level decks, he only has 4 large-scale astrology cards. Fortunately, as long as the star power is sufficient, the astral card can be used repeatedly and continuously. Unlike Kaling cards, once Kaling dies, it has to be resummoned after a period of time. The same is true for core cards and scene cards, which have to be cooled after being used once. After a while, the corpse tide hit the front of the camp again. Everyone immediately raised their spirits and prepared to attack. Boom! Hundreds of blue flame fireballs fell from the sky, killing a large number of living corpses. Immediately after, the demonic claws, the death ripple, and the final spiral were released one after another, and the corpse group was emptied again at once. Quote. Everyone was speechless and looked at Yeezy in unison. Have to. Since the boss is willing to take action to clean up the monsters, then we can't ask for it. 10 minutes later, when the corpse tide came for the third time, Yeezy used the astral card again to clear the front of the camp. The fourth time. The fifth time. The sixth time. The influx of living corpses were slaughtered again and again. Fortunately, the corpse group did not fear this kind of emotion, otherwise it would have been beaten and collapsed by other creatures. As time flows, the people on the fence gradually showed expressions of astonishment and disbelief. How many astrology did this release? I have never seen this big guy drink any medicine. How much star power does he have? Usually, it takes at least 10 or 20 star power to use an astrology card once. This is still a normal deck. As the deck level increases, the power and consumption of astral cards will gradually increase. A large-scale offensive astrology card with such powerful power will never consume less than 100 star power. But so far, Yeezy has released at least 50 times astrology, but he has never drank even half a bottle of potion. This means that his star power is at least 6,000 or 7,000. An extremely staggering number. You must know that ordinary card students, unless they are geniuses who have advanced all the way through high difficulty levels, when they reach the 5-star level, their star power is usually only about 2,000. The number of star powers that Yeezy has displayed so far has far exceeded this number. Simply incredible. Too strong. Someone in the crowd couldn't help but exclaimed. Many people nodded subconsciously. Is not that right? It's like a human-shaped battery, and more than 50 astrology are released without a break. There are endless corpses outside. For other things, even if a corpse dragon comes, it will be smashed into slag. Zhu Shui's eyes lit up, looking at Yeezy as if he were looking at a piece of jade that needs to be unearthed. If this kind of talent is put on the battlefield, it will be a war slaughter machine. Especially when dealing with the Yin Karen aliens who are good at corpse sea tactics, it is guaranteed to make the enemy run wild. After the corpse tide is over, we must get this person from Xiaoyu. Zhu Shui secretly made up his mind. At this moment, the atmosphere on the fence seems to have become a lot more relaxed, and the previous pessimism and solemnity have completely disappeared. In front of Yeezy's astral bombardment, the terrifying corpse tide turned into a fireworks show. Everyone just stood by and watched Yeezy kill the approaching corpses again and again. Gaze into the distance. The corpse group can faintly see the edge, indicating that the corpse tide is coming to an end. The crisis will be lifted soon. Roar. Just as everyone was overjoyed, a deafening roar suddenly sounded in the distance. As if the prelude had begun, roars sounded one after another. This voice is Long Yin. Among the people present, Zhu Shui had the most experience in fighting against the Yin Karen alien race, and immediately judged the source of the sound. As if to verify his words, 5 huge corpse dragons suddenly rushed out of the mountains and forests in the distance. Corpse dragon. The crowd changed. Chapter 63. The appearance of the 5-headed corpse dragon made the crowd panic. The expressions of many people suddenly became extremely terrified. It's not just because of the corpse dragon. The 5 level 60 corpse dragons were certainly terrifying, but what was even more terrifying was the meaning of the corpse dragon's presence here. The corpse tide may also be formed naturally, but it is impossible for the corpse dragon to appear on the periphery of the Qingwei Plain for no reason. The only explanation is that the caster of Yin Karen is behind it. Maybe this corpse tide was originally promoted by them. Therefore, the rare corpse tide appeared on the periphery of Qingwei Plain. Damn it, goddamn Karen interracial. Zhu Shui couldn't help but utter a foul language, and his face became extremely ugly. Can trigger tens of thousands of corpse tides and control 5 corpse dragons, the mastermind behind the scenes must not be an ordinary Yin Karen alien. Most likely a noble with a title. This means that there is a high probability that there is an army of Yin Karen nearby. For Camp 38, which is weak in defense, this is undoubtedly more terrible news than the corpse tide. Corpse dragon. No, there must be a noble lord of Yin Karen nearby. Zhu Shui was hesitating whether or not to disclose this information, which would inevitably affect the military's morale, when he suddenly heard a horrified shout from the crowd. Turning his head to look, a pale-faced young man was shouting in horror. The power in the camp can't handle the private army of the noble lord of Yin Karen. We can't stay here any longer. Breakthrough. Yes, you must break through immediately. Get out of here. To shut up. Zhu Shou angrily glared at the talking youth. It was a pity that it was too late, and the expressions of the surrounding adventurers changed drastically. Panic and fear quickly spread through the crowd. Yi Zi followed the sound and was surprised to find that the person who caused the panic was Gao Fuxin. Quiet. All quiet. If there is another random noise causing panic, I will kill him as the commander of the temporary war zone garrison. When he said the last sentence, Zhu Shui glared at Gao Fuxin angrily. It is self-evident who it refers to. However, under the fear, Gao Fuxin has lost his calm and almost collapsed and shouted. Even if you are the garrison commander, you don't have the right to order us to stay here and die. The defensive force in the camp can't possibly be an opponent of the private army of the noble lords of Yin Karen. If you don't break through, there will be only a dead end. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the surrounding people became more and more shaken. Many people's eyes began to flicker. Zhu Shou glanced around expressionlessly, and said coldly. Outside the camp is the plain terrain. Without the cover of the wall, playing a chase with the Yin Karen army on the plain will only kill you faster. Or are you confident that you can outrun a corpse dragon? Gao Fuxin's expression suddenly froze. Zhu Shui suddenly turned to look at Yi Zi. Brother, what do you think? The others came back to their senses and quickly turned their attention to Yi Zi. Yi Zi's strength is obvious to all, and he is the chief hero of resisting the corpse tide. His opinions naturally have a lot of influence. Yi Zi looked around and smiled faintly. I agree with Chief Ju's opinion. Are you crazy? Yi Zi, staying here is a dead end. Gao Fuxin glared at Yi Zi, his face contorted and hideous. Shut up. Say one more word to disturb the morale of the army, and I will throw you out of the camp. Zhu Shou shouted loudly. Gao Fuxin shuddered, and finally closed his mouth and stopped talking, but his eyes still flashed with unwillingness and resentment. Ignoring the jumping clown, Zhu Shui turned to face the crowd. Everyone, the Yin Karen army is not scary. What is scary is the loss of confidence and calmness to attack. The battle that took place here has been reported to Tianxin City, and reinforcements will arrive soon, as long as you have confidence and calm down. In the face of the next danger, we will definitely be able to get through it safely. Zhu Shui's words gradually calmed the fear in the hearts of the adventurers. Although there was still a hint of fear in the depths of everyone's eyes, at least the appearance was calm. The defense continues. Everyone ready for battle, looking at the army outside as if facing the enemy. Brother, what's your name? Zhu Shui walked over to Yi Zi and tapped him on the shoulder. Yi Zi. Brother Yi Zi, thank you just now, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. You're welcome, I'm just telling the truth. Yi Zi smiled. He did disapprove of leaving the camp to break out. On the one hand, of course, as Zhu Shui said, it was not a wise choice to leave the camp and escape on the plain. On the one hand, it is because if you miss this battle, it will be difficult to have the opportunity to brush the beheading achievement. Let's fight together next time. Looking at Yi Zi gratefully, Zhu Shui patted him on the shoulder again, and turned around to arrange defensive work. On the lookout, the deputy head stood behind Xiao Aiyu, frowning. Captain, do we really want to listen to Zhu Shui's words and stick to the camp? Otherwise, since the enemy has put so much effort to besiege the camp, they must have prepared means to prevent us from escaping. Maybe there is a cavalry hidden nearby. If it is as the clown who jumped the beam said, if he leaves the camp and breaks through, I am afraid it will end. It's a dead end. Xiao Aiyu said lightly. Even though she was seriously injured and faced a desperate crisis, there was still no trace of panic on her face. Is it useful to defend the camp? At least there's a better chance of survival. Xiao Aiyu looked back at the deputy head and shook his head gently. You are the deputy head of the regiment anyway. Be calm and learn from my junior. Didn't you see that he was very calm from beginning to end? The deputy head's expression was stagnant, and then he smiled wryly. How dare I compare to that big guy? People's strength is there, of course they have confidence. Chapter 64. Just when the adventurers cheered up and prepared to meet the enemy again. Camp 38 is 3 kilometers away. On a hillside. More than a dozen people dressed in different clothes stood on the top of the slope, looking at the camp in the distance. These lowly human races are unexpectedly tenacious, and they can actually resist the corpse tide. The middle-aged man at the head frowned slightly, staring at the direction of the camp and muttering to himself. He was wearing clothes that looked extremely luxurious and exquisite, and his whole person revealed a pampered temperament. There is a touch of arrogance in the words, and it is obvious that he has been in a high position for a long time. Behind the luxurious man, a man in armor with a gloomy aura and a lifeless face stepped forward and replied in a low voice. Lord Baron Kurt, there should be a strong Katu strongman in that camp, and that person used astrology to destroy a large number of living corpses. Katsu Powerhouse. Is that the head of the Red Luminous Adventure Group? Kurt frowned. Probably not, Lord Baron. This time the answer was an old man in black robes. According to the news from the Falling Star sect, Xiao Yu was seriously injured by their attack and has completely lost his combat effectiveness, so it shouldn't be her. Since that's the case, who is the strong Katu who suddenly jumped out? There is only one Xiao Yu in the Red Light Adventure Group who can be called a master. The black-robed old man said slowly, with undisguised contempt in his tone. The other adventurers are just chickens, so the subordinates believe that the strong Nakatu should be people from the military. Kurt's eyes lit up. There is actually such a master hidden in a small temporary experimental camp. It seems that the people of the Falling Star cult did not speak. The human race must have developed the technology to drive and kill the living corpses, and it is in the camp. Kurt's heart is hot. The technique of driving and killing the living corpses was not only of great use to the human alliance, but to him as well. As long as you master this technique, you can use it to deal with the enemy's army of living corpses when fighting against other noble lords. He couldn't wait to see the astonished expressions of his old foes. The order goes on, the army is attacking, and the camp must be captured before the reinforcements of the human race arrive. A sneer appeared at the corner of Kurt's mouth, and he waved his hand vigorously. Yes, Lord Baron. ... After Yi Zi's repeated astral bombardment, the originally boundless corpse tide was gone. Quickly cleaned up by the sergeants and adventurers Kaling. However, there was no trace of relief on the faces of the crowd. Over the mountains in the distance, the 5-headed corpse dragon has been hovering in the air since it appeared, with no offensive intentions. Seems to be waiting for an order. The existence of the private army of the noble lords of Yin Karen is like a sword of Damocles, hanging above everyone's heads, making people feel at ease. Finally, accompanied by a shrill long horn sound, the sword of Damocles fell. Countless black spots came out from the mountains and forests in the distance. Those were soldiers with sluggish expressions, expressionless faces like puppets, and pale skin. They arranged in a dense formation and marched towards the camp slowly and neatly. Across the distance, you can feel a slaughtering aura blowing towards your face. Reform the soldiers. It is really the private army of the noble lord of Yin Karen. The knowledgeable adventurer recognized the true face of the soldier. Transformed soldiers are the unique basic arms of the private army of Yin Karen noble lords. Even so, they still have a fighting power far exceeding that of a living corpse. Levels are generally between 15 and 20. Moreover, it is not afraid of death, has no pain, no emotion, and is an extremely terrifying weapon of war. At least 30,000 transformed soldiers. With rich combat experience, Zhu Shui immediately judged the number of enemies, and his heart suddenly sank. After, there is more. Another exclamation sounded. Everyone immediately stared with wide eyes. Sure enough, it was found that there was a group of tall warriors with a more sinister atmosphere behind the reformed soldier corps. It's a corpse soldier. The number is estimated to be in the thousands. This is a level 40 powerful unit. The expressions of many adventurers have become extremely ugly. However, this is just the beginning. The monsters that came out of the mountains and forests one after another made their faces pale. Level 40 Stitched Ghoul. Level 45 Demon Soul Corpse. Level 55 Corpse Warrior. Level 58 Roshan. Not a single one is lower than level 40. Facing such a terrifying lineup, many adventurers couldn't help but feel cold all over, and their palms couldn't help shaking slightly. He. I said it earlier, you can't be the opponent of the private army of Yin Karen nobles, a group of stupid guys. It's too late even if you want to escape, it's your stupidity that ruined own life. Gao Fuxin in the corner sneered and looked at the anxious-looking adventurer, his face full of resentment and distortion. Yi Zi glanced at him sideways and shook his head secretly. In the face of a strong enemy, you can panic and fear, but you must not lose your mind, otherwise it is useless to have strength. Gao Fuxin is an elite student in the 3rd grade, but he did not expect such a poor psychological quality. Chapter 65. Don't panic. Zhu Shou shouted loudly, trying to calm everyone down. Roar. What responded to him was a thunderous dragon roar. As the Yin Karen army was dispatched, the 5-headed corpse dragon hovering over the mountain forest also flapped its wings and swooped in, spitting out dragon breaths, instantly killing dozens of silver-white guards. It's over. Let the flying Kaling block them, and don't let them get close to the wall. How to stop it? This is the undead dragon seed. Frightened cries came and went. Zhu Shui's eyes twitched when he saw it, and he was very anxious. The decks owned by military carders are generally of the military type. Even if he is a 5-star card disciple, the strongest card spirit in his hand is only level 55. And it's not a flying card, so it's impossible to pose a threat to the corpse dragon. You can only kill these monsters in numbers. Zhu Shui secretly made up his mind and was about to order the sergeants to control the flying Kaling to besiege the corpse dragon, but out of the corner of his eye he caught sight of the heroic girl beside Yi Zi coming out more and more. What is she going to do? Zhu Shui had noticed the 2 girls beside Yi Zi for a long time. After all, both of them have amazing looks, which is hard to ignore. Just like the adventurers outside the Red Light Adventure group, Zhu Shui only considered the 2 to be Yi Zi's companions. When one of them took the initiative to meet the corpse dragon, he couldn't help being surprised. Wait a minute, you. He immediately opened his mouth to cry. However, the words stopped abruptly in the middle, and the whole person was stunned by the strange scene in front of him. I saw a large amount of black mist escaping from the girl's body, surging to form a thick jet black armor. In a blink of an eye, the girl turned into a knight who was covered in jet black armor and held a black patterned spear. Kaling. Zhu Shui widened his eyes in astonishment. Next second, he saw the black-armored knight raised his spear, his body slightly leaned back, and the tip of the spear that shone with icy light aimed at the corpse dragon in the air. An ear-piercing sonic boom suddenly exploded. Zhu Shou felt a dark shadow flashing in front of his eyes, and a faint light had already shot out. Like a black streamer that pierced through the sky, the spear instantly hit the corpse dragon in the air. Before he could even let out a wailing sound, the huge body of the corpse dragon trembled violently for a moment, and then it disintegrated and dissipated like a weathered rock, leaving no flesh and blood. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The sergeants and adventurers who saw this scene on the fence all opened their mouths wide, showing disbelief. A level 60 corpse dragon, just killed in seconds. Everyone looked at Arena blankly. I saw a faint flash of light, and the black patterned spear reappeared in Arena's hand, but the next second it turned into a streamer throw and shot. The corpse dragons flapped their wings frantically, trying to avoid the attack. It's a pity that no matter how they move, they can't avoid the deadly light. After half a minute, all 5 corpse dragons were annihilated. Only a little bit of ash fluttering in the wind remains in the air, proving that they once existed. Everyone looked at Arena's back in a daze, only to feel like they were in a dream, and they couldn't wake up for a while. Too strong. Li Yu murmured in shock. I originally thought that the charming Kaling beside Yi Zi was already very powerful, but I didn't expect the other one to be more powerful. 5 level 60 corpse dragons were killed so easily. Totally effortless. How powerful is this adult really? The same thought reverberated in everyone's mind. Powerful astrology, bottomless star power, plus Kaling, who can kill corpse dragons in seconds. This big guy is simply a tough one. With this kind of fierce person, maybe it can really support the arrival of reinforcements. For a time, the morale in the camp soared. Whether it was a sergeant or an adventurer, there was an excited look on their faces. The gaze that looked at Yi was also filled with undisguised reverence. The strong in the card world are respected. Especially in the current situation, any card disciple will not hesitate to pay tribute to the strong who can take them out of danger. In the corner, Gao Fuxin looked at Irena dully. He had watched the match between Yi and Shu Jiazhou, and knew that Yi had a black armored knight Kaling who could instantly kill the elder of the ancient tree. It was just that he never thought that the black armored knight was the girl who was always by his side. And it seems that Kaling's strength is even more terrifying than expected. Could it be that, in the finals, Yi didn't show his full strength? Gao Fuxin was startled by the thoughts that popped out of his mind. Immediately, his face gradually darkened. Obviously, the stronger Yi is, the better chance Gao Fuxin will survive in the end, but he doesn't have the slightest bit of happiness and gratitude in his heart. Why? A mere commoner is actually more powerful than an elite from a big family like me. Why? Intense jealousy kept biting Gao Fuxin's heart like a poisonous insect, causing his spirit that was on the verge of collapse gradually to become distorted, and his gaze towards Yi's back became extremely malicious. Not far away, Yu Zhaoqin saw this scene in his eyes, the corners of his lips curled slightly, and a sneer appeared. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.